guys, it's Jenny and I'm here with another tutorial on how to mix skin tone. So in my last video I made, it was all about how to mix a skin tone with like the least amount of color theory and the least amount of colors. Kind of a turn your brain off and your creativity on and paint kind of deal. That's how I envisioned that kind of method being used. So today we're going to get actually into the color theory and our color wheels and all that wonderful stuff to make skin tone. So we're going to start with our primaries, our three colors, our red, our yellow, and our blue. And then if y'all don't know, the whole color theory thing is that all the colors can be made from the red, yellow, blue, and then you're going to lighten those colors with diluting your paint out, you know, so the white of the paper shows through. So just letting you know, I assume that's a review for almost all of y'all, but you never know. So let's check out those three colors. First up, we have quinacridone red. It's a color that I really like. It's one that I use in my skin tone when I do my standard method, and it makes a really nice primary red. Next, we've got quinacridone gold. I really love the richness of this color, and it's got really high tinting strength, and we get a lovely range in there. So next is indanthrone blue. My standard blue is actually ultramarine, but for this one, I needed one that didn't granulate so I could get a wide range of flesh tones. So there they are. Beautiful. All right, so now we've got our quin red, and we're starting our color wheel. We've got our quin gold right there, and we are going to put them together, and they are going to make a really nice orange. So you see me putting it down there, and it's a bit pale, so I'm going to go in and darken it up. And then, of course, there's the balancing, making sure it's a true orange that's halfway between the red and the yellow. So I want it to look like how we imagine orange. And there we have it. So now I've got green going with the gold and the indanthrone blue. And yeah, I go through and deepen it up. Sometimes you got to go through on a second pass because they added too much water the first time. And now I'm doing violet, and this is when it's like always trying to tweak, is it too pink, is it too blue? And then also, you know, darkening it up. You forget how much water you hold in your brush, you end up diluting your colors a lot more than you imagine. So I've got it right there, and I'm like, oh, it's a little too magenta-y, although I really do prefer my violets that way. I wanted something that felt true and felt like a nice balance between the two, so I added more blue. And now it's too blue. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add that original color back. So lots of balancing when you're mixing colors like this. All right, guys, we have our primary colors that we swatched right here. And then we made our color wheel. So now we're going to use this color wheel to reference and use like, I don't know, like a chart or a guide to help us mix our skin tones, which are, they're not quite neutrals like, you know, a black, gray, or, well, I guess this brown's kind of more like a flesh tone. But we're not doing neutrals like this. We're going to still keep the color there, but we're kind of like tweaking them a little bit to look like skin color. All right, so we are going to start light in the typical watercolor fashion. So gonna grab a little of this quin red, little bit of quin gold, and you'll see, as you kind of work with this, you'll see which colors are stronger. So that quin gold really quickly overpowered that red. All right, and I do have this paper at an angle, my lovely Post-it notes, because it reduces the glare, so y'all can see the color more accurately on camera. So yeah, there we go, kind of a nice peachy kind of Caucasian skin tone. And then of course, you know, there's gonna be highlights and stuff, so as you thin it out with more and more water, it gets paler and paler until you get the white of the paper. And regardless of the person's skin color, you're gonna have, you know, if it's really dynamic lighting, you're gonna have the white of the paper showing in some areas, and then you're gonna have really dark areas. All right, so now we wanna move up, have a darker skin tone. So let's go with some more of this red. And then I'm washing my brush out to try to not contaminate my palette here. All right, so we get our red and our yellow, and of course we're getting orange now. So orange can look really beautiful in skin tone, just to kind of brighten it up, add some color. You can kind of layer it in there, and it looks really beautiful that way. But just like this, that doesn't really look like anyone's skin color aside from our Cheeto president. So what we're gonna do, you can reference this chart. Okay, so your skin tone is looking too orange. Well, you're going to neutralize it with your complement, which is going to be blue, because according to color theory, complements will neutralize each other. So we're going to add a teeny bit of blue, because I know that this blue is awful strong. Then we can add a little more. And working with your skin tones like this, it's a lot about balance. So let's see what we got here. So that's not really a nice color, I don't think. So we'll add, we can just keep adding a little more. Okay, so now it's looking a little browner. So you see there, but it's kind of starting to look a little green, and we don't want that. That might look sickly. So we're gonna put a little more red in there, because again, if it's looking too green, opposite of that would be red. Okay, now it's picking back up, so let's try that. So now we've got a nice brown. Not quite the color I was hoping for. That's okay. But again, you can thin it out with more water, and you're getting kind of a range of flesh tone. But I want something a little bit more orangey. So yeah, there's a lot of this when you're doing your primary colors like this. There's a lot of kind of mixing and evaluating and trying things out. Let's see. Let's take this color, and then let's try thinning it out. So there you go. Something like that. The flesh tone. So this would be someone with cooler undertones. This is quite cool as well. This would be someone with warmer undertones. All right. So let's keep going darker so you can kind of spot the trend. We just keep adding more color, less water. It's kind of the watercolor thing. Adding more yellow. Again, it's looking really orange, so now we're gonna add a little blue. Let's take a look at what we got here. We got this skin tone. And it's a little green to me. I'm gonna add some more red. There's a lot of tinkering when you're mixing colors using this method. Oh, that looks beautiful. Okay, see, that's what I'm looking for. I really like my flesh tones to have a lot of red and yellow tones in it, because that's what makes people look like they're alive, is when there's a lot of warmth in there. And then I can take water, I can thin it out. That's really nice. And the more you would work with these colors, the easier, you would get the feel for your mixtures. And then look, I have this nice little pot of mixture, skin tone right there that I could keep pulling from. And then if I wanted to, so say I'm working on a portrait using this color a lot, I can pull a little off to the side, and it's all right, now I need to do a really shadowy area. So I pulled this over here, added more blue. Wow, surprise, it got too green. So you know what we're gonna add? We are gonna add some more red. So now, this color would be a great shadow color. So it's kind of more purpley, like in a shadow. And you could have a shadow this dark with this flesh tone this pale, just depending on how your picture's lit. Let's see if we can get even darker, because what I really want to stress anytime I'm doing watercolor stuff, there's this assumption and reputation that you can only do really light values in your work. Oh, that's really pretty. See, that looks really rich compared to that one, even though they're quite similar.
But yeah, people look at watercolors and it's like, oh, it's like a really pale, passive looking medium. But you can get really dark values, even with minimal colors. But I'll admit, it's the darker values, they get trickier and trickier, especially when you're doing this amount of mixing. And see, that's quite dark. That color could be used to shadow hair. It could be, detailing like the nose holes, the eyeballs and stuff like that. Or it could be your darkest shadow on a darker flesh tone. So I think this has got a pretty good range. This is a little pinky. Now that I look at it dried, I'd probably add a little more yellow. But you get the gist here. So these are just some mixtures that you can get using these 3 colors. So here is our primary color skin tone-y thing in practice. So I just made a quickie sketch to show how you might do this in your own art practice, showing a range of different skin tones and secondary colors. All right, so there's the facts of this primary color mixing system. Actually, this is like my second time attempting this intro and outro, because the first time I just bitched about this whole thing. And then I was like, what a terrible video to make where it's like, I have this method and it sucks. But I do feel that way a little bit. So, okay, here's the deal. I'm not happy with my little sketchy thing. I found mixing paint like this to be incredibly frustrating, mostly because I do have a go-to method with mixing my flesh tones that works really well, and I feel like I'm getting richer colors. And, I do wonder if that blue leans a little green, but, my French ultramarine, which is what I no, it's not French, it's just regular ultramarine that I go with. It granulates too much for the darker skin tones, and I wanted it to be like these 3 colors, you get a whole range of skin tones. But in a future video, I'll show you how I mix my flesh tones, and it's not as minimalist of a palette. But I think it's really important to share that, because especially if you're a beginner, I'm sensitive to the fact that some people are like, there's 88 watercolors in the core line and I can't buy them all. And it's like, you don't need to buy them all. You can do a lot of mixing. So this week it was all about mixing. When I do my video on the way that I like to do it in my personal work, there's a little, it's not so much mixing from scratch, but more like taking a really nice color and then you're kind of manipulating it. So you do always need to know your color theory. And that's why I don't want to shit on this method too much, because I do think it's important to know, and it'll make you a better artist to sit and practice mixing neutrals from your red, yellow, blue. So that way when you start incorporating a, like quinacridone violet is a color that I love. And in my head, I know it's like a violet, it's going to be your red and your blue, complement to yellow. And it helps me mix that color better because I know the theory behind it. It's like one of those things where it's like in school, you learn all the math and then they give you a calculator and then you get to do the crazy math. This is how I feel about learning this kind of thing. And just have a really solid foundation in the color theory, and then you can move on where it's like, okay, I have a very firm grasp on it. Now I can make better choices when, working with convenience mixtures, which I should do a video on convenience mixtures and pigments and blah, 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 blah. Lots of stuff to talk about. But yeah, I did find this very frustrating. It's just, I didn't find it a pleasurable painting experience, and I do feel like my work suffered because I was really caught up in the mixing, and then I wasn't making as good of choices on the little sketchy thing that I made. And really, it's a sketch. Sometimes they turn out crappy, and yeah, y'all got to see a crappy sketch tonight, or when it's not up to my standards. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I would highly encourage you to figure out, if you're not already doing color wheelie kind of stuff. I mean, even if you're just doing swatches and practicing, do it. And, sometimes, these are the 3 primaries that I picked. You might have different red, yellows, and blues. Try them out. I think it's really cool when people are using, instead of, your standard blue, they're using, a turquoise or, something crazy. There's really interesting
like colors and triads that you can make with your primaries. So yeah, so definitely like you know the pros and cons, but I hope you use this knowledge. And I don't know, guys. This was a frustrating video. So yeah, I'll see you on my next video where maybe I'll do something I'm good at. All right, bye guys. Oh yeah, not goodbye. You should sub and like me on Instagram and all the social media call to action follow things. Okay, for real though. Bye.